Hari Om. Chapter 18, what we have seen so far is that our Sattvic Gyan, the vision that we have, brings forth our Sattvic Karma, the actions that we choose, and the Sattvic Buddhi, that is the intelligence that guides us, and a very strong determination to fulfill the Sattvic tasks, Sattvic Dhriti. And also the same for Rajasic and Tamasic. The direction in which our gunas are taking us are also taking us to that corresponding type of sukha, happiness. And happiness is the ultimate goal of everyone in sansar. Mujhe happiness ke liye hi karna hai. So Bhagwan has said very quickly in verse number 37. I'll take Sattvic Sukha first. What are the kinds of Sukhas that we are all capable of in the Sattvic way? Number 37. Yatta dagre vishamiva pariname mritopamam tat sukham satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasadajam. That is nectar. It has been, Sattvic Sukha has been declared as nectar. Why? Because it is the kind of sukha that we draw from doing sadhana or seva, helping others, or satsang, or sitting and thinking about some higher truth, or just contemplating, or dhyan, or the bahirang sadhana as they call it. Bahirang means outward sadhana of japa and tapa and swadhyay. Or we can do antarang, that is reflection. All these give a kind of joy and the thrill which only the person who is involved in it can express or experience. The others cannot. So, Sattvic Sukha can be of a kind which is taking us to more closer to our real self, the Atma. And it is making us more introverted and inward looking. But what about the Sukha, the pleasure that is drawn by the Rajasic people? Very quickly, verse number 38. Vishayendriya samyogat yattadagre mritopamam pariname vishamiva tatsukham rajasam smritam. So in the Rajasic Sukh, all these quick pleasures that we get from food and from entertainment and recreation and outward going, that is quick because the pleasure comes immediately. But in the end, Bhagwan is saying it's going to turn into Visha. Visha, why? Because like I devour a big hamburger, how tasty, how delicious it is. I get the immediate spurt of pleasure from a big bar of chocolate or a tall glass of soda or hamburger. This is only at the food level. But of course, we have these kind of quick fixes with sensuous pleasures and also with partying and extrovertedness. Then we think, this is pleasure. But at the end, all of it leaves us so much the poorer in our spiritual growth, and therefore in the end it turns into poison. What looks like nectar at first. And Sattvic Sukha, it appears like very bitter at first. अरे इतना ध्यान कौन करेगा, इतनी मोटी किताब कौन पढ़ेगा, इतने सारे श्लोक कौन सुनेगा. It appears so tedious, like a bitter task, and in the end it turns out to be the real nectar. That's what Bhagwan is saying. And in the 40th verse, Bhagwan says, in 39th, Tamasic Sukha is Yadagre chanubandhe cha sukham mohanamatmanaha nidra lasya pramadotham tattamasamudahritam. Yes, some people do draw pleasure from sheer laziness and indolence and comfort seeking and oversleeping, and they say, and heedlessness, carelessness, ki kya hai, chalta hai na, chalta hai attitude, that gives them happiness, and that's the worst kind of, yes, it is happiness, but it is the worst kind of tamasic happiness, and it keeps us at tamasic level. Now Bhagwan in the 40th verse, as we move on, he says, न तदस्ति पृथिव्यां वा दिवि देवेषु वा पुनः सत्वं प्रकृतिजैर्मुक्तं यदेभिः स्यात् त्रिभिर्गुणैः. That in this world of sansar, of earth and heaven and devas and asuras, that is entire Prakriti actually. Even heaven is part of Prakriti according to the scriptures, because that's a place, it's a dimension of existence, it's not a physical place, where you can work out your punyas. You live there without birth and death, but when all the punyas are exhausted, which we have earned, then we come right back to this Mrityu Lok called Earth, where Earth is only a planet. Earth means in the form of a jiva, and we have to live out again. But this entire sansar of this existence, everything has a quality of sattva, rajas, tamas. Na tadasti prithivyam va, in this prithvi everything, which means that sattva, rajas and tamas attaches to, it is part of Prakriti. Yes, he says sattva, rajas and tamas is part of Prakriti, and therefore it attaches only to Prakriti. It will attach to my deha or my man or my buddhi, but it can never attach to my Atma, because my Atma is not part of Prakriti. It is part of Purusha. Purusha, that higher reality of energy field of, or you can call it Paramatma, whatever. So the gunas cannot even touch what is not Prakriti. It can touch only my Prakriti part. And what is my Prakriti part? My deha, man, buddhi. Anyway it will be perishing. So why attach so much importance? Just try and keep that deha, man, buddhi at the sattvic level, because only from there we can go to the place beyond all the gunas. Okay. Now that doesn't mean that a sattvic person will not have a few moments of temptation. No, of course, a few temptations here and there. That doesn't mean that an evil doer. You know, there are people who do evil, and sometimes they show so much generosity. You know, they will steal, they will kill, but on the other hand, they will go to a slum and they'll say, I want to improve the lives of these children. They should not turn into criminals like me or whatever. You've seen these kind of Robin Hood characters. What does it mean? Are they sattvic? Are they rajasic? Who are they? What are they?
Sorry, Sadhana.
Yes.
आपका microphone है, phone I think बंद हो गया है या कुछ, I can't hear you.
Okay. What about the others? Can others hear me?
I can hear.
Okay. So.
I just got a message that your microphone is not working.
Oh, is.
I just hear you, Sadhana.
But the others are okay. They are able to. Okay.
I can also hear.
Can I log out and reconnect?
I think I have reconnect again.
Okay. All right. Okay. So we are coming back to the topic. There are a few things that we must remember. There are a few things we need to remember, some facts. Let's call it simple facts about gunas. Okay. What are these simple facts now? We have heard so much about gunas. First fact is, it attaches only to Prakriti, because the nature of the gunas, sattva, rajas and tamas is only prakritik. Okay. It will not attach. So that means it is only part of Maya. Okay. Second fact is that we are all of us are a decoction of sattva, rajas and tamas. But in that decoction, what we choose to add in a higher quantity is up to us, sattva, rajas or tamas. So as I said, there are lots of Robin Hood characters who do a lot of evil, and they steal money and they steal from banks. But then with all that wealth, on the other hand, we find that they go and do some paramartha for the upliftment of the very, very poor people. So are they sattvic? I'm confused. Are they rajasic or they tamasic? No. It is just that they are actually tamasic and rajasic, but with a small bit of sattvic, and which makes them do the good things. And we are all a decoction of all this. So in what quantity are we adding any of these elements is up to us. So Chinmayaji used to say that when you make your coffee, he was very fond of giving coffee analogies. He said, when you make your coffee, you are adding more of milk, almost a cupful of milk, that is sattva, and you are adding a spoonful of coffee powder, that is rajas, and just a bit of sugar, tamas, not too much of it. Now, he said, if you reverse the proportion and you add more, almost a half a cup full of coffee, and then that leaves very little room on top for milk, what happens to the taste of that coffee? That is what is happening to our lives. Our lives have become disgruntled, bitter, meaningless, purposeless, just drifting along, or getting involved in a lot of gossip and unnecessary waste of time, or complaining, grudging, I don't know what, or thinking about how our families can make more wealth. We have made enough wealth, but now how we can retain that wealth, how we can reinvest that wealth. Our minds are in this, and therefore the coffee that we are drinking as our lives has got more of that bitter black coffee content. So it's almost like drinking black coffee. The proportion is not right. The flavor of the coffee of life will not be right. So sattva, the milk coffee, has to taste like milk coffee and not like dark coffee. That was his example. Anyway, so the second fact about gunas is that we are all some kind of a concoction of all these, the three gunas, in our thought, in our speech, in our action, everywhere. Now, who is it who can lift us out of the tamas to the rajas to the sattva? Third fact is, which was mentioned in the 6th chapter, 5th verse, Uddhare datmanatmanam. Uddhare datmanatmanam means yourself can lift with your mind yourself out of it. There is no other person who can come. When we are in deep meditation, is there our dearest spouse, our dearest children, our dearest friend who can fly deep into meditation with us? No. At that point, you have to do it alone, and you in that extreme solitude, and you're only with your Atma at that time. Nobody goes to that point with you. Nobody can go to that point with you. So, Uddhare datmanatmanam, we can lift ourselves only with our own minds. Of course, we take the support of scriptures and teachers and gurus and spending more time with satsang and companionship. Yes, that is taking help. Second fact, that all the creatures on this earth are going to have a texture of sattva, rajas, tamas, but that texture is so different that everyone reacts differently to the same situation. You can see that so many times, like when you're passing by in your building, if there's been a water shortage in your society, and you go down the stairs and suddenly you hear that there is water gushing from somebody's overflowing tank, or somebody has left the tap on by mistake or gone out of their home and the water is gushing, and you go down and you pass by and you stop and you say, no, I cannot allow water to be wasted. Let me find out where the sound is coming from, inform the guard, inform the owner of the house, so that water can be conserved. Before you, there are 3 other people who have passed down the same steps, the same corridor, heard the same sound and did not respond. Heedlessness, carelessness, chalta hai. Who cares? As long as I have water in my house and I have stored it, that's okay. Now, this is just a very small example of people who are alert and alive, and so the reactions come in a way which are different for different people, and it's always so. I may meet with an accident and then I say, oh my God, thank God, at least the passengers are safe. Okay, doesn't matter if the car is crashed. And the other person is now hopping mad because his brand new car, and he is dejected and completely out of control in his anger and dejection because the identification with the car was much more. Everyone reacts differently to the same situation. It is our choice. Because the disturbances, the upsets, the loss in our lives, the illnesses, the injury, the sickness, and the insults, sometimes people do insult, we are all going to have these things in our lives. But the sattvic person says, I choose not to get attached and respond in anger. I choose my tranquility, my silence. I stand apart. I pull away from situations which are going to upset my mind, and the Rajasic person sinks directly into a tirade of grievances and upsets, and so whose life is it that does not have disturbances and insults and injury and sickness? Suddenly there is a sickness, and and illnesses usually come suddenly, you don't realize it, and the blood count shows something. How are you going to react is up to you. The texture of the mind, the inner machinery of every person is so different. That's why they react differently. That choice is ours. Can I hold on and say acceptance? Yes, this has come to me. I surrender. I accept. It will move on. I will also move on. That is the grace. That is the grace and poise of a sattvic person. And the noise and grievance and complaining of a Rajasic person is of a different level anyway. And now, the next question that arises is that if everyone has got a different quality, then can we divide up the people into these, the quality of a Brahmin, the quality of a Kshatriya, the quality of a Vaishya and Shudra? Now, we have come to a very delicate point, and what has happened in our society is that lack of learning. Over the centuries, people have not read their scriptures deeply enough, properly enough, or they have not seen the right interpretations, and therefore there has been a certain corruption of the scriptures which has crept in. Now people have started thinking, acha, these qualities are now passed on from family to family in lineage. And so there will be Brahminic qualities and there will be Kshatriya qualities, and they have to pass on from a father to son or father to parent to daughter. No. Now Bhagwan Krishna himself has to come and clarify this, and he says that this is your antahakaran. The qualities of gunas are in the antahakaran. It is not in the family lineage. How does he explain that? In the verse number 41, he says, Brahmana kshatriya visham shudranam cha parantapa karmani pravibhaktani swabhava prabhavair gunaihi. By the nature, by the swabhava, these qualities are people are recognized. By the antahakaran, people are recognized. People are not recognized by acha aap Brahman hai, and therefore we are going to now divide the society up unequally into Brahmins and non-Brahmins, Kshatriyas and non-Kshatriyas. But that is unscientific. It doesn't work for Krishna. He says, how? Because these qualities that we are drawn to, the kind of entertainment, recreation, companionship, food that we choose, we are drawn naturally to it by our inner antahakaran sattvic quality. And therefore, whatever we dwell on for a long time, it becomes part of our consciousness. And therefore, it is part of your deep antahakaran. It is not outside. For example, the example that we had talked about the other day, about the lady during the COVID times who chose to make fake vaccines. And there's another lady in the same society, in the same city, same global calamity they're all facing, and she chose to use her meager savings to feed children who had been abandoned or who had been forced to be abandoned by their parents due to illness. Now, this lady who was making fake vaccines, it didn't come to her suddenly ki, Arey wah, COVID is now this is the right time and I want to become Rajasic. No, it does not come suddenly. What was inside her antahakaran was that greed, which was brewing in her life for months and years, and probably she didn't know about it. She just saw an opportunity. Arey wah, COVID, fake vaccines, I have a laboratory. Why don't I just take that laboratory setup and mix harmless water in the vaccine, sell it to people for 7,000 rupees each. That was an opportunity she used. But what about the greed? Where did it come from? That greed was brewing in her for lifetimes, I should say. For years and lifetimes. That means these antahakaran qualities lie dormant within us and we don't recognize it. So when we say I'm seeking knowledge, I want to read more. I want to find out about the next scripture, the next one. और क्या कहते हैं, संत क्या कहते हैं, महात्मा क्या कहते हैं, कृष्ण क्या कहते हैं. When I'm seeking knowledge, then that sattvic vasana has been brewing inside yourself for maybe centuries, for lifetimes. Suddenly it has found an opportunity to express itself. It's that kind of deep-seated subconscious level. And now Bhagwan is saying Brahmana Kshatriya Visham. So the scholars are who? They are Brahmins. He is saying that the kind of quality of your antakaran will lead you to that kind of job. Bhagwan is saying, what kind of job? Okay, so the people who are naturally drawn towards the work of scholarly work, doing some research in philosophy, they are creative thinkers or teachers or poets or writers or scholars. He says, I call them Brahmins. I call them Brahmins. So in my family, there may be a poet and there may be a business person. So can I say my family is a Brahminical family? That's ridiculous. We have to know the scriptures, what Krishna said in the 18th chapter about Brahminism, so-called. It's a totally corrupted form which has destroyed the fabric of our society and led to a lot of discord and conflict, which we are all suffering to the day. He says these are Brahminical qualities of the mind. What about the Kshatriya? He says, oh, they are the leaders, the entrepreneurs. And not entrepreneurs, they're the leaders and activists and politicians and warriors and soldiers, administrators, even religious leaders who are, proselytizing, and people in high government posts, administrators and governors, directors. They are leaders by nature and they are Kshatriyas. So Arjun, you are by nature a Kshatriya. You cannot suddenly put down your bow and arrow and say, okay, I think I should go to the mountains and meditate because you say that there is highest peace there and there is freedom. No, Arjun, you still can't do it. I may say that Tyag or Sannyas is the way to, renunciation is the way to your moksha and freedom, but Arjun, where you stand right now with your antakaran and the mental makeup and the mental texture, you have to complete your Kshatriya Dharma. Only then you can exhaust that Kshatriya Dharma, which is what? Rajasic in quality. So Arjun, you have a predominance of Rajasic quality. Of course, he has a small sprinkling of Satvikta also. Otherwise, he wouldn't be sitting through 18 chapters, listening to Krishna in the first place and saying, Krishna, give me Gyan. Satvikta thi. But he is predominantly Rajasic. Bhagwan says, complete your Kshatriya Dharma, please. Now, what about the Vaishya Dharma? He says, people who are naturally inclined towards commercial activities, they are the employers, factory owners and entrepreneurs, bankers, investors. You have wealth and you know how to invest it properly. All of us can't do it. A person who is writing poetry or reading scholarly books or doing a translation of the commentary of some rishi, you tell him suddenly, do you know which is the best place to invest your savings? And he'll go blank. It's not part of his antakaran. It is not part of his natural calling. So be it. Bhagwan says we accept that. We accept that people are made different. They are meant to do different tasks because they are made different. And so these commercial employees will go into business or he'll explain a little later that also includes agriculture and factories. What about Shudra? He says Shudra are those kind of people who are semi-skilled or unskilled labor, who are able to follow instructions faithfully, dutifully, and they don't have a grand vision कि मुझे इतना creative काम करना है, मुझे इतना wealth create करना है. They don't have a vision which is large enough. That's all. So these are the peons in the offices and the security guard or the semi-skilled labor or the unskilled labor, the housemaid. All these are people who dutifully, very nicely, faithfully complete the instructions that have been given to them. We need them in society, otherwise the fabric of society is going to shatter. So Shudra is also needed. Shudra has become a 4-letter word taboo word, but because of its maligned use. Otherwise, Bhagwan has used the word so normally, so beautifully. He has said, Brahmana Kshatriya Visham Shudranam Cha Parantapa. He simply means those people who follow instructions and do your tasks for you, do your menial tasks for you. So they are the assistants and orderlies. Even in the army, we need our orderlies and assistants and batmen. Otherwise, who is going to iron the uniform and polish the shoes and say, oh, so you call them Shudra? It's not a bad word. That's why then Gandhiji tried his very best to break the taboo, and he called them Harijan, the people of the Lord, Harikejan. And now Harijan became a bad word. So something is corrupt in the mind of our society which does not understand the scientific reason why the Varnas, these are called Varnas, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, the Varnas have been talked about in our scriptures. That is because the division of society has to be on scientific lines. It has to be scientifically divided, not divided, but people decide their professions so that so that all the functions go on smoothly. This classification is not by birth, and I repeat, when he is telling Arjun that okay, you are a Kshatriya, he is not saying that you are the son of a Kshatriya and that's why you are a Kshatriya. He doesn't have to be the son of a Kshatriya. That's not what he means. I'm going to end this with a simple example. We'll continue next time. When we apply for a job in a multinational, this is exactly what the HR team does. They give us a big questionnaire of a psychometric test. In that psychometric test, and we've all been through it, those of us who have worked in multinationals, in that psychometric test, they have a battery of questions, so many questions. What is the kind of work that you enjoy? What do you think success is? What is your vision about yourself 5 years from now, 10 years from now? Where do you see the company being taken 10 years from now? They see your vision, your understanding, your temper, and if your team is not working, what will be your reaction if your project is on? All these kind of dilemma questions. And your team has fouled up, what will be your reaction? They test your fortitude, your dhriti, your buddhi, your vision, and also whether you will still retain that sense of direction and happiness. You see those psychometric tests, they are psychologically, scientifically designed. Krishna is saying the same thing. He's saying, अरे भैया, psychometric test के हिसाब से ही आपको job दी जाती है ना, so that it fits your temperament. And if the job fits your temperament, you're going to do it the best possible way. So what is so difficult about this? And therefore this Varna actually only means color or hue. So the Varna system is nothing but the colors of the guna, Sattvic, Rajasic, Tamasic guna that we carry. And therefore the classification is so scientific that life and society is supposed to be run like a well-oiled machinery of a multinational company, where everyone fits into the perfect job that their guna demands or propels them to. But we'll see more about the Varna system the next time, because it is an important topic for us to understand where we went wrong and where it became a kind of a evil in our own society. Lack of learning, I would say, but we must go back and relearn some of these concepts. So next time. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Haji. Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Haji. Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Haji. Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Haji. Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Haji. Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Guru Bhyo Namaha. Haji.
I wanted to tell you something.
Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Haji.
I wanted to tell you something.
Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Haji.
I wanted to tell you something.
Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Haji.
I wanted to tell you something.
Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Haji.
I wanted to tell you something.
Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Haji.
I wanted to tell you something.
Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Haji.
I wanted to tell you something.
Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Haji.